what they call the control room pulled up on YouTube.
Okay.
So I'm waiting for it to confirm to me that things are happening, and then I will. Okay, it looks like it's happening. Let me check sound here.
Bam.
Okay, yeah, yeah, there it is. It is working.
Yeah.
We are live. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming to the stream. Thanks for hanging out with us here on YouTube at a Go Live Together. Here with Trevor McNevan, obviously, of
Yo.
Thousand Foot Krutch, FM Static, freaking all the great bands. They themselves also incredible artists. So just excited to be here, chatting with Trevor and chatting about our song, chatting about music in
Yeah, man.
general, chatting about life. So yeah, some of you may have come out to a similar stream I did with this, with Josh from Ashes Remain, and we are doing kind of the same thing this time, except Trevor's in the hot seat now. So now you're gonna
I'm
get
ready. I'm ready.
grill with all the questions. I know there's several people rolling in now. A lot of times, what happens is once it goes public and we go live, then it gets pushed out to
For
those
sure.
who signed up to wait. I
Okay.
also will let people know in chat because I see lots of people chatting and posting things in chat. We may get around to questions and I may propose them to Trevor, but just letting y'all know that in some ways this is a Q&A moderated by me, if you will. So it's not necessarily like an open forum kind of thing. But nonetheless, I'm still keeping an eye on things. So
I like it.
that's what I'll do the best I can. I when I do my own live streams for my own uh, events, I usually have my wife or a friend of mine moderating. It's just me today, so if it goes haywire, it's because it's just me out here trying to
Just
do this.
blame
So
just blame me. We got this.
awesome. Mm. Well, a question
Checking out
I
the
want to start
comments.
with asking
Yeah,
is,
man.
what are you listening to nowadays? What's the music that you've been spinning? Something you've been enjoying that you'd want to share about?
That's a great question, dude. I am such a music fan to this day, like as much as I was when I was a kid. And it's always just been about like a great song and less about the genre. So, man, I am a big hip hop head from way back. I love
Okay.
punk music. I love punk music. I love, some of the pop rock stuff. Didn't used to be down. I didn't used to listen to much country, but I was aware of before. Before, I had a couple I always loved, but so yeah, who's like and a daughter who are into their own stuff. So what I listen to most of the time is Forrest Frank, to be honest. That
Okay. All right.
that's what
Nice.
that's what's tearing up our house most of the time. Um, it all depends, man. I'm all over the place. I love to this day, and as far back as I remember, I've always been someone just as a fan of music and just kind of
Okay.
it's impossible to stay on top of, but I do love
Yes.
checking out what's going on. Yeah, I mean that didn't really answer your question. It's a tough one to answer, dude. So much new music. Yeah, you'd have to
Yeah.
almost hit me with genres. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, I also I'm posting our link to my to the stream right now
Oh,
on my
nice.
Twitter, so people can be aware of on that end that things are happening. Um, yeah, I've been listening to. I'll just pull up my Spotify here. It tells me what I'm listening to.
Yeah, dude,
Uh,
hit me.
yeah, so interesting you say that you only recently got into country music because I grew up in Alabama, so
Okay.
I was kind of like boiled in it, both literally, metaphorically, and then literally with the weather the way it is with humidity. So it was my yeah, that would taste better. And then my dad also worked at a radio station, a
No
country
way.
radio station for like 30 plus years. So
Okay.
we have like dozens, dozens actually, some fair hundreds of like singles CDs that he would get from artists. and it would,
Okay.
yeah, from the station back in the day. And then he went on in his last 10 years of his career to go and work at an R&B jazz station. So
Oh,
he was all over the map. But yeah, country music tends to be the one genre that seems to like uh, elude people I've come to know in terms of like a preference
yeah.
for, but it
Yeah,
is
yeah.
coming into prominence as of recent. There's a lot of new country artists, a lot
Big
of
time.
established artists within their own genre, whether that's pop or rock or hip hop, in like embracing country music. So it's
Yeah,
getting a renaissance in a way that I didn't know that would happen.
for sure,
Um,
man.
so it's really
Absolutely.
cool to see. But the music I'm listening to, I have some bands I really like. There's a pop punk band called the band Camino, and they had a new
Yeah,
album
dude.
come out.
I
The
love those guys.
Somerset is another pop band that I really love, and
Classic.
they had an album come out. There's also this newer artist on the block named Alex Warren, and he just released a new album, and it's really nice.
His stuff, bro. You're
Yeah.
helping me out here. Similar playlist. Yeah, I love his stuff, man.
So
Mm,
that's essentially. I mean, there's all these other stuff as well, but those are the main ones that
okay.
I've been. Oh, and Metallica released. They re-released their Load album, so I've been
Yes,
running through that as well from the late '90s.
dude. That takes you back, man. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny when you were talking about country, I was like 90s, there was like early 90s country I was into for like when Shania, that was
Yeah,
amazing. That was
yeah.
incredible, I thought. And then like David Lee Dust on a
Okay,
Bottle. That was a big
okay.
jam. I like it. I love it. Want some more of it. The Tim McGraw action. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
down with that for sure. And then I kind of yeah. Then I think I kind of pieced out on country, and then the last decade or so, it's pulled me back in. There's just so much talent, and like you were saying, I've been kind of fascinated. What's been really cool to watch, I think, as a fan of music, watching country specifically, is like there's been all the fences came down, and there was just no fear to start exploring new.
Yep,
Hey, stay in your lane. This is what country sounds like. Country's had a great thing forever, but it's been so refreshing just seeing them, yeah, not be scared to just take the paintbrush and, try some new colors, man. It's
I
been
agree with
cool to
that.
watch that. Mm,
Yeah. So here's just a cold question for anyone who's in my audience that may be here from my audience. Uh, How familiar are you with anime?
Me?
Yes, just
Uh,
a cold open question. How
yeah, yeah, yeah.
familiar are you?
That's a
And
great
this is a
question.
gate this is a gateway question, I promise. This does lead somewhere. This leads somewhere.
For sure. Okay, I'll be totally, totally honest. I've had low exposure to. Uh, it's been pretty minimal. What I have loved, and probably the most of my exposure has come from people putting together their own really rad videos to our music, and watching those on YouTube. Those are dope, man. That's probably been my exposure to that, to be honest. I am on that a little for sure. I have so many friends who love it, and it's not that I don't like it. I deep dive on.
Well, and the reason I ask that is what you've already brought up is the people who are making all of these videos. They're called AMVs. That's what the culture would call it.
Right, right, right.
Anime music videos, and that is where so many people, including a lot of people from my audience, ever first heard of lots of their favorite bands, especially alternative rock, new
Yeah,
metal, hard rock adjacent kind of music. That's where they first got their exposure, where it was that
it's crazy. I
back. And
love it.
what was wild back then is the and this is where I'm sort of looping it around here to get to this bigger question, is how music was spread and shared and you know disseminated throughout an audience was like the
Yeah,
Wild West in the internet
for sure.
days. It
Yeah, yeah,
was,
yeah.
and that was just one of those
Absolutely.
ways that wasn't really monitored or like it didn't like no one checked it. It just
Yep,
happened, and it happened so fast that
for
the
real.
the labels and artists themselves kind of couldn't keep up in a way. And in one way it was great because so many people got access to music they'd never heard of and didn't know how to even find it.
Yep.
So those videos invited a brand new audience that one had no idea of who the artists were, and two didn't know where to get certain kinds of music. And that being true back then, how have you personally seen the music industry, the big music industry, evolve over time, and what's been the biggest takeaway you've had from how the music industry has developed and how it has impacted artists and how they distribute music? There's maybe more there, but that's the general
Yeah.
open-ended question.
We won when I was 16 that called Oddball. That was, and it was, and then I started TFK when I was 17. And so, um, I've seen it all through the years, man. I mean, I used to go and like take own tapes of our demos and stuff and take them to the radio stations myself, and was just shopping stuff, and I'd go to Shoppers Drug Mart and like just be mailing demo tapes to labels, and like, and then obviously CDs, and everything along the way. So we've seen this hilarious like progression, and I think it's amazing, dude. I mean, I know there were a lot of artists like that, anyone who had been around at that time who kind of uh, had a front row seat and was making music for a living during sort of the Napster and Kaza LimeWire days. There was lots of people who kind of got their arms up about that, and fair enough. But I don't know, man. I've always tended to look at like, to me, it's more exciting. I think, sure, there's lots of change, and it's changing again, and it keeps changing, and to me, that's kind of the fun part, man. I mean, it's as a listener, it gives you more, there's in some ways it's given the listener more ownership and more connectivity with the artist, which I think is really dope. Like when I was younger, man, I mean, it used to be especially rock bands, but just artists in general, it was kind of like actors and actresses where there was more
Mm,
mystique. It was
mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm,
you didn't, unless you watched an interview that only happened once in a while, you had lots of kind of wonder about that person's life. Like, there
mm-hmm.
was lots of, you didn't know much what's going on behind the scenes. And obviously that's just like flipped it 100% nowadays, man. So yeah, I think it's dope, man. We went independent in 2011. So we had been on a record label
Wow.
for 10 years. We were independent for a long time before that. Ended up selling a bunch of records out of our van across North America, and then signed a deal for 10 years with Tooth and Nail Records and EMI. It was a bit of a God thing, to be honest. Just felt
Right.
in my heart that that's what we were supposed to do, and it's actually the last thing we wanted to do. Hard, and we wanted help so bad. We were like,
Oh
all right,
man.
it's time to get some help. But yeah, it turned out to be the scary at first. And to your point of this question, you don't control who listens to your music, and you just appreciate every second of anyone who takes time to listen or share that experience with you or connect with you through music in any way. And so it was such a gift, man, and a blessing to watch the audience show up. You know what I mean? It was to this day, that's a moment I'll never forget, dude. It was just one of those things where we were like, well, this will either be the end, or this will be the beginning, and we trusted God, and thank God we did, because
Hmm.
his plan was better than ours, man. It was really special just to see the audience show up. And I've always called it the TFK army, but we're just grateful for everyone who's connected with music same way that we do, man, and connected with this music, and kind of for the love and support. So it's been awesome, dude. I think it keeps getting more exciting all the time. I With like just rad ways to connect with the audience and stuff, because I have a bunch of newness coming, and
Right, right, right.
it's just yeah, it's just a whole new world, man. And some of
Well,
it's definitely a learning curve for sure.
you mentioned being on the road and
Yeah,
selling CDs out of your van, and I do that kind of going to conventions a lot. Like I sell a lot of my
yeah, dude.
music at conventions, and that's where a lot of my audience is. And one of the cool things that my colleagues have talked about, because a lot of our careers started and in some ways are still continuing in part
Yeah,
through derivative works. So making covers, doing the original music is sort of a new thing for many of us. And this question was posed by one of my colleagues that I pondered on, and I'd be curious to hear your input. That there was this idea that she learned when she
okay,
went to art school, that there is this distinction between like to be a true artist, at least however they
okay,
define it. So there were
yeah,
big air quotes here. A true artist, one must suffer for the art. That suffering is a part of the art. Like
okay,
that needs to be a key element of it. And this person who said that to my colleague was directly referencing busking, going to clubs, staying up late, hauling your own equipment, selling the CDs out of the back of your van. I guess
right,
to modify this question that my colleague brought to me is one, do you feel that to be a valid artist, one must suffer? And then two, to add on to that, do you think that the suffering, if there is any, what it is, adds to the art that is made? Is that a necessary ingredient that you
sure,
feel like, oh, that makes me an artist, that I did that for the
right,
art?
right. That's a good question, dude. I think. Well, I can tell you one thing. In my opinion, some of the best art and some of the best music has come from a place of pain. You know, has
Hmm.
come from painful experiences and has come from the storms in our life. I believe that's certainly true, man. The more we experience, the more in depth we can go about some of those things. And with I don't. I mean, I guess it's to each his own, but I think it's more, in my opinion, I think a true artist is someone who stays true to their heart and is authentic about what they're inspired to create, and if it excites them and they can sleep at night being like, I love this. You know what I mean? This is a true extension of me or of my creativity. To me, that's successful. That's a true artist, where it's more about authenticity and not as opposed to, and it's really easy to do this. And sometimes when this is something we all, are exposed to and are influenced and inspired by other music and film and stuff all the time. But
Sure.
it's less about, I think, looking around at like, okay, what's working? Who's doing what
Mm,
well, and
mm,
what can I sort of like I, you know, I think it's less about that and more about. I think we're going. I'm all the time, man, and always will be. I think that's the beauty of music in the way that it hits us all different. So that just happens as a music fan. But as far as like defining a true artist, I think it's like, yeah, man, what comes out of you, whether anyone else hears it or not. You know,
hmm.
and
Yeah.
sometimes when we've been doing this a while, like you and I, and lots of our friends, I had someone ask me once, it was like this therapist she was like, when's the last time that you just sat down and worked on any music just for you? Like not to, you know, not to put out, not to
Hmm.
share with
Hmm.
anyone. And
Hmm.
and it was such a good question. I was like, gosh, I mean, yeah, I don't remember the last time. So I sat down and yeah, it was fun to tap back into that, dude. And I think sometimes it's good for all of us to do that. To me, the true artist thing's more about that. I don't feel like I have to manufacture some painful experience
Hmm.
to write
Hmm.
about it. I certainly do think powerful songs come from pain, though. That's for sure.
I agree with that. I very much agree with that. And to you mentioned saying that like writing a song. When's the last time you wrote a song for yourself? I'm trying to remember, and this is
Right.
something I tell people when I speak at a convention or otherwise. You
Yeah.
know, I say something similar. I was like, I can't remember one of the last times I sang without some kind of thought about
Sure.
either I need to preserve my voice because I'm recording tomorrow, or
Sure.
oh, this song I'm hearing, could this potentially work for, how could this fit into my career, or when
Yep.
I'm writing a song, how is this going to fit with the vision we have for this album? Is this what the audience is going to want to hear? And it's like, huh, it's just interesting how that, it's like it's like it's completely changed the listening experience and the performing experience. Because I
Right.
remember when I was before, I mean, I've been making videos and singing as long as I've been alive. You know,
Yeah.
my mom put me in
Sure.
choir at a very young age, so I was singing since I was like 3 years old, and my brother
So
was
cool,
in
dude.
choir too, and then we got a camcorder in the late '90s, and
Yes.
that was
Was it
that
one
in a way.
of these big like shoulder
It was not
like
a
a boom
crazy
box?
looking. It was actually one of
Okay.
the more modern, like
Okay.
handy cams, so Sony handy
Nice.
cam.
Okay.
We still have it,
Gotcha.
but you had
Gotcha.
to put the tapes in and close
Yeah.
it and all this other business. So it was. We've been making stuff that we loved just because we loved it and wanted to do it for a long time, and this shift that sort of happened underneath me, at least within my career, being on YouTube and
Yeah.
making covers and otherwise other things. It's like, oh, this all of a sudden now. In some ways, it's like I didn't grow up, so to speak, because the thing I was doing for fun became the thing I did that made money, and the thing that, and that's like you never quite
Yeah.
get back the, at least it's felt like for me it was difficult, it
Yep.
has been difficult to get back that same innocence, if you
Yep.
will,
Sure.
of the love of making the art in the first
Yeah.
place, and not just letting
Absolutely.
it, you know, just
Yep.
constantly be about the work or the job or something like that.
Yep. Man, that's a really good point, man. I love what you shared. Like, thanks for sharing that. I think that's true of most of us, where it's like you get into it just because you it's so fun to do this thing that just feels like it's like an extension of you. And then yeah, art becomes commerce at some point in time if people start digging what you're doing. And yeah, that's an interesting switch. And it's
Well,
a yeah.
I have another thought to follow on top of that, and it actually
Yeah.
is a question that I thought of,
Okay.
because it's not explicitly for you as a
Okay.
question, but I
Yeah.
think it was formed around what I know in small part of your career and your time, and in this way I'm
Yeah.
really benefited because you mentioned artists. There's a little more mystique around them, and that's
Yeah.
great because when I've done these conventions and I've met people that I've known for a very long time or followed, I can get real nervous. So this is
Yeah.
good that I'm a little more ignorant of every detail of someone's life, because then
Sure.
I can ask good genuine questions. But in this, with
Totally.
this one in particular, like you mentioned wanting to write music just for yourself. When's the last time that happened? It's like when you, as an artist, and I feel
Yep.
this way too, especially as a content creator, when we take breaks or hiatuses, is the seasonal kind of thing of writing and making music. Like
Yep.
when you're writing music, do you operate on this like being inspired kind of idea, or are you like, I am going to deliberately make this music happen? Like you sit down and make it so, or is it something that you just have to feel inspired or the music doesn't come?
It happens in different ways. I I feel fortunate that because I've had this conversation with lots of friends who write music and stuff, and I rarely feel uninspired, and so I'm grateful for that. That hasn't been much of an issue, but it comes all the time, man. Like I feel like I try to follow the inspiration that just comes from real life. A lot of times, for me, movies are a big one too. I think
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
film has always been like a healthy escape.
Right.
You kind of shut your phone, and just it's nice. And so magic in movies for me, you know? I don't know how
I
the
agree.
sausage is made. It's like it's cool. And so it I like that. So in that same way, film all the time, man, inspires me. Other musics, conversations with people. Um, the older I've gotten a little bit better at putting the emotions into words, you know, some of the feelings and thoughts and digging into that, like, okay, this is how I feel. Why do I feel this way? And um, I t- I love this about a great song, and I love so many people who do this well, and it blesses me in my life as a music fan. But I love that great lyrics. First of all, I think that a great song makes you feel something. You know,
Hmm.
it just
Hmm. Hmm.
it'll make you feel something. And great lyrics, I think, generally give us the words for the stuff we feel that we don't have ourselves. You know, or they
Hmm.
put it in a way where you're like, huh, okay,
I
that's
agree
better
with
than
this
what I was, you know what I mean? There's something really
completely.
special about that. Um, and I don't know even know if I'm answering your question.
Yeah, no, in part, definitely answering in part. I think uh, I would pry maybe a little further and say, has there
Yeah,
been a season of life that you've had, and this could apply to apply it to the audience, like,
yeah,
but for you, has there been a season where writing music, or one's art, has there just been a particular season that you've had where that didn't come naturally, it didn't come easy, it just felt like it was just like in neutral, it just
yeah.
wasn't able to
You know
come
what?
through?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's, you know, the times for me when when that creative tap just feels shut off completely are the times when, I mean, you know, I feel things big. In my That's just how I'm wired, you know, and it's
It's a good way to feel. I'd rather feel big emotions than the small ones, truly.
absolutely, man. I It's the times when um related, if even if it's a core, even whatever I'm feeling, seems to shut off that tap real quick. It's
Mm,
hard to get creative if you're really like flustered about something that means
mm,
something to you, or so yeah, there was a time you reminded me of something, man. There was a time when we lived in Nashville, my wife and I, for like a decade. And I was so frustrated at the time. We had just went independent. My wife was pregnant with our first son, our first child, and I was building a new studio in Nashville, and I was writing two records at the same time.
whew,
And it was like
man.
awesome, but classic, like everything just kind of like everything that was supposed to stop and start here just ended up going like this.
Yeah.
Anxiety in my life where
Mm,
I started
mm,
with those
mhm.
things. And yeah, feeling really heavy, and it felt overwhelming for the first time in a new way in my life. And I remember being out on the deck in my backyard. I was kind of a little bit like, you know, what is going? And I came in. I felt like I was supposed to listen to one of our earlier records, like from like 1997, like one of the indie ones. So I came in, found it in this stack of old music. I hadn't listened to it in like 20 years, and I threw it on. And I mean, we were pretty brutal. My voice was pretty brutal. The band was pretty brutal, but like but it had so much heart. And the thing that I think that God was trying to show me was that it was not everybody may understand what this word means, but I'll just use it as it you know what it means to me. But in the
Mm, mhm.
you know what I mean, and the heart was good, the attention was good, and the only really like good thing about it.
In spite of.
Right? Yeah, so I got to hear that and be like, "Man, like, thank you for the I needed that reminder of, like."
Mhm.
So, and these moments that happen in your life. And so I went upstairs and grabbed a guitar, and that's how that song "Be Somebody" came out. It's
Wow.
just I just sat down and it just kind of poured out, man. It was about feeling that way and kind of stepping out of getting my eyes off myself in those moments when I'm frustrated in, you know my stuff and just how helpful that is in life. The older I get, the more I realize too. Stopping to be grateful for things in my life is a big cure for a lot of things. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, my wife says that one of the things her mom
Mhm.
taught her was one of the best ways to uh, processing anxiety or self-loathing or your own circumstances is to think about others, to focus
Yeah.
on somebody else and helping others. That's a great way
Yeah,
to
man.
take your mind off of
For sure.
what you're going through. Well, and you mentioned that some of the best songs come from a place of pain, and
Yeah.
that's a great place to write from. And so I'll bring it back to talking about uh, our song that we wrote,
Yeah,
"Unparalyzed."
dude.
That is on. Hold on, they told me I should have a prop, so I have a prop, which it's not really a prop. It's just the you see that's a way cooler prop. This is just the
I
album.
was like, I have props, but they don't really relate.
It's like
Oh, that's
Transformers, like
sick,
that's
dude.
way cool. But yeah, this is the vinyl. If you've yet to pick up the vinyl, there
Yeah.
I'm told that somewhere in our on your phone or on your desktop is a button to buy it. We also have a 20% off code that is just the name of the song Unparalyzed, and then you can get 20% off your entire purchase. There's your in live stream ad that
Yeah, baby.
I needed to give. So with the song Unparalyzed, obviously, and someone has mentioned this in chat several times. This was a song that actually had, and this is new to me. And I mentioned this to Josh when I chatted with him. I'd not worked with when I've ever written any music, it's been me. Like I've been the sort of sole
Yeah,
authority
totally.
of
Yeah,
lyricism, composition, arrangement, and
sure.
working with other artists with their own influences, their own ideas and directions and
Yep.
inspiration. It's a different beast. And
Sure. Yeah,
when you
absolutely.
approached Unparalyzed, when you approach songwriting in general with others, what are some tenets that you take into that process? And we'll point it to Unparalyzed just to make it about
Yeah.
that song and the
Yeah,
work we did on that.
absolutely, man. Let me know if this answers your question. The way I heard it, I mean, I would go into that. I love songwriting, and that's something I've always done a lot of outside of my bands, and it's just I love it, and I love working with people and great songs and trying to chase that. And so I this was such a cool opportunity, man. Getting to meet you and getting to hear what I love to do first is I like to hear someone's voice. So I like to like listen to some of your stuff before like attempting to work on
Right,
a
right,
girl.
right.
I had heard of you through
Flattered. Well, thank you.
as a means. I
Hmm, hmm.
I I like singing, but I gotta work at it, man. Like I've had to work hard at singing my whole life. Like I don't just like sing like a bird, you know. And some people just do, you know. They don't even have to warm up. And I don't know if that's you, but you certainly sound like that to me. It's like in the best way possible. It sounds like you have a lot of freedom in your range, and you emote things really well with your voice. And that's one of the things I noticed first about you, and I was like, man, this is really dope. That gets me excited about just the possibilities of your voice and what you've done, and kind of adding in the hard some of the rock elements and stuff that you wanted to work on. And so yeah, this was a really cool process, man, for me anyways. And it was just really fun getting to connect with you and kind of connect hearts. And I think the what this song is even about,
Hmm.
definitely, and some of the things I was going through at the time, and or could really, and um, yeah, it was an awesome journey, dude, and a blessing to be a part of with you, man.
Yeah, yeah, and you have several writing credits throughout the album. You were mentioning that you love songwriting, you love helping artists find their voice and adding where you can to enhance that or discover, allow them to discover something about their voice or their
Yeah,
composing, whatever it is about
yeah,
themselves. And I think what's really special about this album in particular, this is my second album. And what's special about this album from my first album is the fact that there was a fair bit of additional songwriters that came on to help arrange and compose and bring lyrics to the table too, and that I hadn't thought of. And then these germs of these ideas too.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
know
sure,
with Unparalyzed and a couple others like Fear and The Memory, these all came from different places. And I and working with judge and jury has been fascinating too. I'd be
yeah,
curious to
yeah,
hear your own thoughts or how
sure,
you feel about it. But everything with judge and jury has been very much kind of like some ways flying by the seat of my pants because when we were discussing the second album, The Darkness Before the Dawn, and its creation and writing the music, it was at first incremental.
okay,
Singles came out one at a time, and then kind of near the end of 2023, or was it 2024? 2024,
right,
we really hit the gas real
yeah,
hard,
yeah,
and I was like, "Whoa, and what deadline are we trying to meet?" And I was like, "Man, okay, well, we're about to. Everybody's gonna have to be all hands on deck with
yeah,
this." And
high
in
gear,
some ways, in some ways, I think there's a at least with no one would know the songs because we've ordered them in a particular way, but like
right,
those last sets of songs, there's like an urgency to them that feels real intense because there wasn't a lot of time to revise or be like, well, what if we changed this word or what if we
yeah,
moved this measure? It was like,
sure,
all right, however we doing this, however you felt, that's how it's going out, and
yeah,
it's on the
yeah,
record, and then that's how it's gonna
yeah,
be. So
for
with
sure,
the and I had to there was a lot of trust in this record, and that's the thing I find that's really
sure,
cool is there was a lot of trust in the people who were working on it, from production, from songwriting to engineering to
right, yeah,
composing and arranging, that like, and then from y'all who worked with me and then the label
yeah,
themselves to be like,
right,
all right, well, it's going to coalesce and it'll
yep,
become what it is, and we just hope
right,
that people resonate with it. um
yeah,
and that was a extremely unique experience. I don't know if you've done a lot of songwriting before, so uh, is this a unique experience when working with labels or other artists themselves of various deadlines and surprises
right,
along the way, or is this par for
right.
the course? Is this just normal?
Yeah, yeah. You know what, man? I, in my experience, it's unique every time. I would say kind of half and half to what you said. I think in a lot of ways, it's par for the course in the sense that everything is always needed yesterday. You know what I mean? It's like
Mm-hmm.
we got
Yeah. That's how it felt.
we need it by 4:30 in like an hour, and uh,
Mm-hmm.
seems to be just the mo of our industry and the way it flows, regardless of who you work with. But uh, outside of that, if you're writing with other writers as well, or if it's just if you and the artist directly writing, or all of the different scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
I find that it's always different. I mean, you had such a cool vibe about you in the way you mentioned trust. Great in life, there's a bunch of us in there just trying our best to help you do this thing that you do, and that you have a vision for the best you can. And so everybody kind of does their best, and then it's sort of a multi-trust thing of being gonna kill it. So we just everyone just make sure that everyone sort of gets what you're seeing. And um yeah, man, I thought you crushed it, buddy. I thought it was really, really cool, man. And uh Joe Rickard as well. Did
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
did an incredible job on some of those things too, man, on the mix and the track stuff. And
Yeah, goodness, man. Joe is
yeah,
something special. Truly
right? Yeah.
incredible, incredible artist
He's
in his own right, and
yeah,
producer
he
extraordinaire,
is,
like
man.
wild.
Yes, big time, man. It's like a super talent. And I mean, obviously Neil too, Sanderson from 3 Days Grace. I mean, he's an
Mm-hmm.
amazing dude and amazing talent. I don't know if you know this, dude. I Neil and I are from the same hometown, first of all. And we used to work at McDonald's together when we were
All right, all
like
right. Wow,
yeah,
wouldn't you
so
know it?
okay, I paid for it just with McDonald's shifts, and he drummed on it.
That's
And it's just
wild.
we used to like his band used to Groundswell before there used to be 5 members, and they had a rehearsal space and we didn't. So we would sometimes they would let us rehearse over there at their stuff. And then
Wow,
eventually Neil and I and a couple of friends of ours had a house that we rented together the first moved out. And it was
wow.
this crappy in between all these buildings, and all of you know the the business is shut down at 5. So the reason we rented this crappy little place was because we could have the whole basement with like all the instruments set up. And after 5, you could make as much noise as you wanted.
All right.
Go way back, and it's been awesome to see him and Howard connect, and Grady Benson too. Howard's son
Mhm.
is just a crusher. And yeah, I love
Wow.
those guys, man. And it's been fun to watch your
So
stuff
that's
just bloom,
that's
bloom.
how that's how you if you're looking to if everyone's watching and you're wanting to start a band, what you need to do is get a couple buddies and then go work at
Yes.
McDonald's
Hmm.
and
Talk to me.
then magic will happen. There's just something about getting your arm burnt by fry grease trying to clean that
Right.
fryer that
Yeah.
just grows you in a way that
Yeah.
Trevor said the best songwriting and the best art comes from pain.
Real
And
talk.
there is no pain quite like getting scalding burnt by
Yeah.
hot oil. I worked at Chick-fil-A for about 2.5 years,
No way,
and
dude.
and that
Awesome.
was and I was like permanent back of house, and it was grueling. I don't miss it, but it was that was an intense period of time. Um, so whenever you started writing music very young, freaking worked at McDonald's, started a band from there. Um,
Yeah.
and you mentioned earlier that you went independent, and the funny thing is I feel like you went independent later in your career, and I
Yep.
feel like that nowadays that's
Yeah.
kind of like it's not even just a burgeoning. It's like it
Yeah.
is a thing that greatly happens often is artists go independent, they choose independency, and there's a lot of focus on whenever specifically music, not just art, which is also being done independently, but
Right.
the medium of music being done independently with a focus on labels, their own the contracts they pin and the
Yep.
deals that are made there. There's a lot of people wanting to release independent music themselves and choose that path to have more control and
Sure.
for various other reasons. When you said you went independent, that was a while ago. So like, was that
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
also you say scary, and it makes sense that around that time that would have been scary
Yeah.
because I mean you tell me if I'm wrong in this, but I would think that was kind of especially for someone with the status that you had that would have been pretty surprising and maybe some would
Sure.
say dangerous. So like how do
Yep.
you how did that I mean you've mentioned how it felt, but like
It was all of
was
those
that
things.
was looking back at that, was that kind of really out of the box to do that, and was that as shocking as it seems?
Yeah. It was both of those things, man. It was definitely out of the box at the time. We didn't know any bands that had done it, like, personally. There obviously were people out there, but, like, as far as bands that we knew, across our genre and things like that, they were kind of like, midway. You're a good, like, 12, 15 years into your career. It's, yeah, it was definitely not, like, the thing to do, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
It was, if yeah, it absolutely not. So, it was, I think we got offered some crazy stuff at the time and had
Pardon
to
me.
turn it down. Bless you. Um, we turned down some pretty amazing offers just to follow our hearts on what we felt we um, it was amazing. In that timing, I will say this, I have no issue with labels, man. I think what every artist needs a different thing. Independent is, one not everybody's is built for that either, it also is a lot
Mm,
more work. So it just depends what your non-negotiables are in life. And so at the time anyways, it was cool. I mentioned how, and in that scenario, and again, nothing towards labels at all, I love
mhm,
these
mhm,
things, but it removed the middleman. It felt like it was
mhm,
just us
mhm.
and them. And we kind of, for then, from then till, that's just the way it's always been, from that moment on, as we've just been walking together, and it's been a pretty special thing, man, that we couldn't have done earlier in our career, or worse time. um, but it was, yeah, we're grateful we did. And to give God the glory, it was like we were able
Yeah.
to accomplish some things that, with like a team of, was more like probably 8 people, 5 to 8. We were a staff of like hundreds on a bigger label. And
Mhm, mhm.
so yeah, no shade thrown in any direction there, but it was
Sure.
it was an amazing experience. And yeah, certainly nowadays, man, it's way more common. It's fun to watch. I mean, it's never been more of a wild, wild west than it is right now. You know what I mean? Where you're
That is
just,
so true.
whether you're on a label or whether you're independent, or you see very creative things being done and all over the place. And I love that, man. To me, that's exciting, and it's kind of like the sky's the limit, man. Like, let's continue to push boundaries and find new ways to connect with people. And especially like, I'll speak for myself here, but we, in our band, that the other, we all have families, and the guys have other stuff that they're doing,
Right,
and I have
right.
other things that I do. And so it's less, our hearts are no longer attached to like world touring. You know what I mean? We did that for like 25 years, and it was unbelievable. And that's not to say we won't, that's not to say there won't be shows with new music and things, and
Sure, sure,
it'll
sure.
just strategically done. But it's just, yeah, we don't want to, I don't want to miss the stuff. Like, I don't want to miss my kids growing up, man. It's definitely a big part of my purpose and calling in this season. And so, um, sure. And I think there's some really exciting things coming. Um, yeah, that's all I can really say about that.
Well, with that being said, because I've had this, and I apologize if we go a little over, just because there's
No,
several
no.
questions. There's a handful more that I definitely want to ask, but that you talking about that brought up another one. Something that is often thrown around in my space of content creating is this idea of community. And when you go independent like you did back then, independent artistry, at least nowadays, is fairly common, and also a lot of younger people, let's say 30 and below, are like, I
Yep.
prefer that. That's what I want to pursue. I want that kind of control and creativity. And community is a thing, the word that's thrown around often here as a thing that
Right.
people want to cultivate and develop. Is that something
Right.
that like you set out to do, was to create a community of people around your music, or a culture or something like that, or did that come out of that? Was that something you thought about?
Great question. You're good.
It's stuff I'm curious to know from fellow artists too, especially someone who's
Yeah,
been around a very long time and
right
storied
on,
and has
man.
legacy. It's stuff I'm very curious about.
I appreciate it, man. No, that's a great question. I think a bit of both, to be honest. I think um, when we saw them really show up, when they didn't have to, and just kind of it felt really like we were walking this. That's sort of where the untraveled road idea even came from. It felt like that, dude. It felt like this
Mm,
everything that we did every from that moment forward was a first. And so we were walking that together, and it really did feel like that. And so I felt like, I definitely intentionally, and we all did, just leaned into the family aspect of that, to like the rock family, and just not just rock, but just more so like it felt like family, that community, and that's definitely how we've always treated it. I've always looked at it that way, as extended family all over the world, and yeah, it was incredible. But some of those things, I'd be we predicted some of these things, or like we could have had any control over them. It
mhm.
um, happened and didn't have a whole lot of control over it.
Yeah, I could tell you for sure that at conventions where people have listened to the album and they've or they've seen the album and they see your name, if they are fans of you, out of everybody I've worked with, they are the most like ardent and fervent and like I
Wow.
love him. I love him. And like I'm listening to him and his music and I just feel so connected to him and seen by him. So it's interesting you say that there's like you felt like family. I can tell you from my few interactions I have had with fans of you, like that's mutual. Like that's more than other artists and colleagues that I've worked with. There's something like there is a uniqueness to uh,
Wow.
the family that you've cultivated over the years, and it's really cool to get to be a small part of that as well. Um, and to not to
Man.
interrupt however response you may have, but to bring it
No.
back to maybe a couple final questions here before we go on
Yeah.
about our days. I go pick up my kids and you have
For
your
sure.
evening.
Yep.
Do you, with that idea of family in mind, do you feel a sense of like being doing this for as long as you have and a career for as long as you had? Do you feel a sense of ownership or responsibility to this kind of music, like alternative music, Christian music, metal,
Right.
rock? Do you feel like there's some stewardship over that and how it goes? Because I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that you've had a great part in developing a sound that hundreds of thousands of people have come to love and emulate and design redesign for their own sound. Do you feel a sense of that when you're sitting down to write and in your career uh, at this point? Do you feel a sense of ownership and responsibility in that way?
Um, the I mean, I don't yeah, I don't think I feel ownership over it. Like I know I've never like tried to take credit for that. You know what I mean? Like it's something that's been very inspired, and a lot of times I feel like the vehicle for something that I'm like, all right, God, what do you want to say? And how do you want to
Mm,
say it? And so a lot of times I feel sort of like the vehicle in that situation. But so I don't take credit for it. So I can't say I can't say I feel the ownership of it. I do, on the sense of like you're proud of your work, and you're proud
hmm
of what you've
hmm
done, and you're proud of the songs and those things, for sure. Um but what was the other thing you said? Ownership, but you said
A responsibility,
responsibility. Yeah.
a stewardship
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. For sure, that part, absolutely, man. That's just something I've always taken the platform of what we do. I think if you're blessed to have anybody showing up to your shows or listening to your music, it becomes a platform of some sort, and that's something that I've always taken really seriously. And so, musically, as a music fan, I love. Yeah, I feel the responsibility to have consistency in what we
Hmm
do, but also, you also want to try new things and be inspired and have fun with stuff that you're excited about, you know? So
Hmm.
it is something though that I take really seriously for sure when it comes to like my own music, like something that I'm singing, you know, for sure. I think the heart of it's really important. It needs to feel a certain way and check certain boxes for me, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So the because when I talked to Josh
yeah,
from Ashes, he had a similar response in the sense of like, I don't know, he's been around. He's like, I don't know if I feel ownership over it. I don't know if I feel like I have some responsibility to carry on this mantle of this kind of music. But he
right.
says I want my music to be, truthful always throughout my career. And
Yeah,
I think in some ways maybe that's the mantle. Maybe that's the stewardship, is that
right.
keeping songwriting honest. Maybe
Yep.
keeping the art we make, whatever medium that be this
Yeah,
this the vehicle of honesty, not being disingenuous. And
yeah,
there is
absolutely.
a fair bit of that I've run into in my own
Yeah,
career, as I'm sure you have as well.
sure.
Uh,
Absolutely, man.
so,
I,
but yeah, yeah. If you had another
I
thought to add to that, I'll let you roll.
yeah, no, just quickly, I think the other thing too that's always been important to me, and you can never control this for someone else, obviously, and what they think of it, but it's been important to me to try to make sure that the body of work. I know that we live in a culture where it's way more about the song than it is the album, and I totally dig that and understand it and all those things. But I I still love a body of work, and I still love when an album has dynamics and takes you on
Hmm.
a bit of a, where it doesn't feel just like linear. I still
Agreed.
just love that as a music fan, and so it's exciting to me. And my favorite records have always kind of had that, and so I've tried my best to incorporate that into what we do. And at the end of the day, there's never been something on one of our records where I felt like we phoned it in. Did
Mm,
some
that's so
did
good. What a good
you know
feeling to know
y-
that
right?
you never just
Yeah,
punched the meal ticket.
yeah. It's
You were like, this is my heart on my sleeve. This is
totally,
this
man.
is
And
this is the
I
truth.
you can sleep at night knowing that like you left it all out there, man. And if I can't control whether someone else is like, wow, these two are album tracks or whatever. I mean, people say, and they can
These are album tracks.
they
That's
can hate
funny.
whatever they
That's
want,
funny.
but for me, it's like, I know that it all felt real and honest, and yeah, I was excited about it from the first second to the last, and that's what matters to me. Yeah,
Man. Well, that being said, Trevor, really quickly, if there's before we head off,
yeah,
I know you mentioned a new YouTube endeavor thing.
yeah, yeah.
I tagged you in this with
Oh, cool.
that,
Okay,
and I think
dope,
people can see that. So what I would say is for those who are here, and it'll be shared on my Twitter and socials as well, that
dope.
to go and follow Trevor at this
Yeah,
the link that is somewhere on my screen that I'm afraid to touch my phone for fear of
yeah,
breaking it
yeah.
because it's
No worries.
working. Otherwise, I'd be
Yeah,
like, hey, I'm gonna
dude.
post it in chat. But Trevor's got a YouTube channel, so go and
Yeah.
subscribe to it. Things should be happening there at some point, and
Thanks, brother. Yeah. Yeah,
just
right
really
now.
appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, dude, thanks for having me, man. Awesome to see you, Caleb. And always a pleasure, bro. It's been so fun working together and excited to see your continued success, man. I was gonna
I'll
say
keep
quickly
writing.
on yeah, dude, keep crushing. That YouTube page is like brand new, and it's for just, if you want to stay tuned on newness, music, all of the things. Uh, that
I
is
figured out
one
how
of
to do it.
that's one of the main hubs. So yeah, go check
It
it out.
is.
And
I figured it out. I posted it right
oh,
there.
no, dude, right
T
on.
Rock
Thanks, man.
at T Rock official. I don't think you can click it, but just y'all know how to copy paste on your phone, right? You can do
Yeah.
that. Y'all are all
No.
smart, technologically literate people that are not us.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
well, I'm
Right
greatly
on,
looking
brother.
forward to working
Hey,
together
man, me
again
too.
soon. Appreciate your contributions across the entirety of the album. Truly, the places where you
Thank
helped on it and came in genuinely love the music that you've worked on, and genuinely hoping that at some point down the line we get to work together again. And I'm excited for your future as well, and whatever it is that you're working on. So I appreciate. I'll be keeping an eye out. Uh,
Thank you, brother. Big time. Thank you. And love you, bro. And
Love you too,
big
dude.
hello to everybody who's hanging with us. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. Thank y'all for coming out. Thanks for everything. Sorry if we didn't get to any questions, but maybe that'll be another time. Those
Heck
things
yeah.
will happen. But
Let's
much
do it,
love,
man.
everybody. Y'all take it easy, and I'm gonna figure out how to
Yeah.
end the live stream because I don't actually know how to do that. So it might just
Yeah.
kind of
You're
like
like,
cut off in like a weird, awkward way. Oh, there it goes. It says end, and you will stop immediately, and you and your guest will no
nope.
longer be live. So, and I'm gonna hit the end button now.